Chapter 1. Strip the beds, Julian. I haven't got all day. Yes, Miss Alabaster, I dutifully replied. I took the cleaned linen from the head maid and rushed off as fast as I could. My feet travelled quickly along the hard wooden floor, and yet I was as quiet as a mouse, always to be seen and not heard. The lady of the house, Lady Greenford, and her husband, Lord Greenford, were up and going about their duties, and I, as a lowly maid, was to strip their bed linen and then spend a good portion of my day scrubbing the dirty ones back to white and blistering my hands in the process. It was all part of daily life. I was well used to it by now. I had been in the household since I was 4. I'd been adopted and brought in as a playmate for their daughter, Milly, who was also 4 at the time. We'd grown up together, always a class apart, but close just the same. When Milly was 15, she was sent to finishing school, and I had outlived my use. I was sent downstairs to become a maid, hated by most of the staff for my privileged upbringing. I fitted in nowhere. The house was enormous. It had 15 bedrooms, 3 parlours, a library, and countless other rooms. There was even a ballroom, although I don't recall there ever being a ball. Lord Greenford was grumpy and cantankerous. I lost count of the times as a child when I could hear his thunderous episodes echo through the house, usually fuelled by drink. Milly and I would always huddle together in her bed for comfort. I even heard him strike Lady Greenford once, when she told him that she regretted marrying him because she had become a social outcast. I avoided Lord Greenford like the plague, which was easy when you were nobody in a house so large. Milly was even glad to go away to school, although she said she missed me terribly. I tucked a stray piece of brown hair behind my ear that had worked loose from my tight bun. I used to love wearing my hair down, playing on the grounds with Milly, not a care in the world. I missed her something rotten. At 19 we had not outgrown our fondness for each other, but her father didn't like us to spend too much time together. Still, I adored her. She had taught me to read, sneaking me books while she was home visiting, and other treats like sweets and cakes. Soon she would marry, and I would not see her again, unless perhaps she asked me to be a nanny for her future children. It was a sad thought. Eventually our class differences would make any friendship impossible. I didn't want to think of my life without Milly in it. I entered the master suite and began to strip the bed from the pillows and mattress. The bed was huge, with the mattress as high as my thigh. I noticed a horrible yellow stain on the pillow where Lord Greenford had drooled. I curled my lip in disgust. The sheets smelt musty and dirty. I threw the linen in a pile as I worked, and then dressed the bed with the new fresh linens. Every corner was tucked, every crease smoothed out. Once I was done, I bent and wrapped everything in a bundle to take downstairs. "You've fair shot up, my lass," came a sneering voice. I whipped round to see Mr. Greenford stood in the doorway. It was early morning, and he still appeared to be drunk. His bedshirt hung down to just above his knees, and he was not wearing trousers. It was highly inappropriate, and I flushed with embarrassment. "Beg your pardon, sir. I thought you'd left for work," I said, quietly lowering my head. I could feel his beady eyes burrowing into me, and from the angle of my head I could see his belly hanging down under his shirt, and ridiculous stick-thin legs. I felt sick. "Worry not, young Gillian. Go on with you." I nodded and quickly exited, my cheeks reddening even more because I had to squeeze past him in the doorway. I inwardly shuddered. As I had suspected, I was tasked with scrubbing the linens. Miss Alabaster handed me the cake of linen soap, and directed me to the large vat where all the tablecloths and bed linens had been dumped. I added my own to the mix and grabbed the scrubbing board. With a heavy sigh, I began. 4 hours later, I was exhausted. My arms were aching, my back was sore. Miss Alabaster directed me to polish the silverware ready for the evening meal as soon as I had consumed my meagre lunch of bread and cheese. My fingers were raw and stiff from the linens, but I dared not complain. Miss Alabaster had the ability to make my life even worse. I couldn't think how, but I wasn't willing to risk it. There was no let-up for me, and Milly wasn't due home for another 3 weeks. I was finally allowed to retire to my little attic room at 10 o'clock that evening, aching and dragging my feet with fatigue, and Miss Alabaster would no doubt waken me at 6 a.m. sharp to start the day. I let my hair down, running my hands through it, and worked the long brown tresses free of tangles. My room was the smallest of all the servants, mainly because I was on my own. It had been the only room free when I had been sent to Miss Alabaster, and I had instantly felt alone. I listened to other maids laughing and giggling, and I was deeply jealous. They were friendly enough to my face, but I was never invited into town or to the secret girly meet-ups they had in each other's rooms from time to time. I put on a nightgown and I read by candlelight for a time. I had a lovely stash of books under my bed. I loved to read, and Milly always brought me books when she came back from school. Soon my eyelids grew heavy, and I fell asleep with the book resting on my chest.